Welcome to Season 2 of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki Starr, and today we will be talking about something different than usual. Today's podcast, I decided to entitle A New Paradigmer's Commentary on World Events. So just this past weekend on my social media, on my Instagram account specifically, I received a very interesting message from an old friend from New York, and she is an activist. She has been a reporter in war-torn areas in the world, and she's really about human rights, and she's really a strong activist. And I knew her when I was a medical doctor in New York City, and she sent me this reel that was a meme, and the reel essentially said, the world is falling apart, and then it said influencers, and then it was a clip from the movie The Truman Show, where Jim Carrey, I think it was his wife, was playing this character, and she was like talking about the cocoa beans, and she's like, this is the best cocoa I've ever tried. And he's like, what are you talking about? Who are you talking to? And it was this idea that in the movie, everyone continued on with their role, but Jim Carrey started to awaken to the reality of what was happening, that he realized he was living in a matrix. And in a sense, the reel was an insult towards me and other influencers, etc., because we weren't talking about the world events, meaning the wars that we're seeing in Russia, Ukraine, in Israel and Palestine. And the thing is that we're just not talking about it in our way. So up until that point, I had not commented on anything. But after receiving that reel, then I felt a desire to respond. And I felt a desire to respond from a place of sharing why it is that I'm not participating in the current dialogue in media and social media, and there's many reasons. And I shared about it in my stories, but I felt it was important to have a podcast on this so that it could reach more people, and then it could be there in the history books as one of the episodes about world events. So I am what I call a new paradigm. I'm a futurist. I'm here as a builder of the new earth and the new paradigm. So with that being said, I operate based on certain rules, we can say. We can call them rules, ways of being, behaviors, because I understand the rules of reality. So in terms of spirituality laws, Spirituality 101 is we create our reality with our thoughts, our words, our belief systems. So as someone who is a creator of the new paradigm, a creator of the new earth, and I'm going to define that first actually. So in the new earth, which is already happening now for some of us, we could even call this heaven on earth, where we are the creators of our reality. We are living in abundance, and that doesn't necessarily mean money, for example. And I'm going to go into this deeper in next week's podcast episode regarding abundance, abundant living. And we know that we have this creator power. So we take full responsibility that we are creating every aspect of our life. And because we know our creator power, we are then consciously and intentionally creating the life that we wish to see, that we wish to experience. So we're taking full responsibility in our hands, we're activating our power, and then with that, creating the reality we wish to see. Now, in this Earth paradigm, in this 3D reality, many different types of reality can exist at the same time. So there can be war happening, and there can be peace on earth and heaven on earth. And there are some of us who are already living our heaven on earth, and there are others that are full on living what we could even say a hell on earth, which is war. And it is a matter of what we choose to participate in. It's not denial. We're not denying that these things are happening. We're just consciously and intentionally choosing which reality we wish to create. So I have come here as a bringer of the new paradigm, which means I'm here for the re-education of humanity. And what that means is I choose wisely how I focus my time, attention, and energy. So if I'm going to post something on social media, I post in alignment with my mission, my goals, which is the creation of the new paradigm. So I believe in creating the new and not fighting the old. This is why I left Western medicine. I do not subscribe to that current paradigm of Western medicine that creates codependency on prescription medications and doesn't empower the human to self-realize and self-heal and to actualize through the challenges of dis-ease, knowing that each dis-ease has an energetic and spiritual meaning. So the moment we change our thoughts, our behaviors, our belief systems, and we start to act in a different way, we can absolutely cure any disease. This is what I truly believe, because we are creator beings. If we get sick, we are creating that on some frequency level. And in other moments, it could be karmic, something from a past life is now coming up to be healed. But we absolutely can go through it and heal it. So that being said, I feel the same about the world events. There are the powers that be that have an agenda, that use the news and social media to spread propaganda based on the agenda they wish for the world to experience. And when I say the world, I mean the masses. I mean those who have not yet fully spiritually awakened to realize that we're creating our reality. So if you ever saw the movie The Matrix, these would be the people who are still in the Matrix. I feel that those who have spiritually woken up and have decided to take their creator power into their own hands to then create your heaven on earth, our heaven on earth. It's different for each person, but it can coexist and be co-created together. And this is what I focus my time, my attention, my energy on. And it is by no means any form of, as I already mentioned, denial or avoidance or any of this. My heart absolutely goes out to the innocent. If anything, I feel that those of us who are spiritually awakened and wish to help the situation, the question that can be asked that I think is the highest serving question is, how can we help to bring those innocent people who wish to exit that situation and step into their co-creator power to create their ultimate lives, their heaven on earth? How can we support them to exit that situation and come into the paradigm and reality that they know that they are here to live? So if I were to give time and energy to the war, because based on Spirituality 101 laws, what we focus on expands. If I were to start posting about war and my beliefs on the war, I'm perpetuating the war. Even now, I'm kind of going away from what I usually practice for the sake of teaching, sharing, of being an example, and so that you can better understand why it is if you were to go into my social media right now. Now on my Instagram, the only thing you will see is a highlight bubble called World Events in my highlights of my Instagram page, where I verbally shared the conversation even back and forth with this friend about my perspectives and I shared it to my whole audience because I felt it was important for people to understand there is a method to the way I do things. There's extreme intentionality. So if I'm not commenting on something, it's likely that I'm not going to give it energy. But it's also because the truth is, I really don't know much about it from many perspectives. One perspective is my specialty is not politics. I'm not going to start speaking on world events when the truth is I don't really know much about it, and it's not my vibe. It's not my job. My job is to empower people to awaken to their full creator power and to give you all that are interested the tools to become your ultimate self in mind, body, spirit, energy, in all the ways, in your relationships, in your business, in your life, in how you're being in the world. So I'm here as an activator and a catalyst of human potential. Me speaking on war, it's just not aligned. It's not the vibe. Secondly, I do not believe most things that I hear in the news and the media and social media. There is propaganda happening, meaning whichever sides that be that want to spread their point of view and want others to take their side will post certain things so that they get people on their side, even if it's not true. So there are some alternative news channels and some alternative media platforms where finally civilians, people who are just living there in the now, can see what's happening. They can see what's going on. And for me, this is so exciting. Like, we're really getting the real news because people who are there are able to share. And it's not just one-sided anymore. If you live in a country, generally you're beholden. And this is before internet and before such expansive social media and news outlets. But you would essentially get the news from the lens of what your country wants you to know. So you're not getting unbiased news. You're getting someone's perspective. They're painting the picture they want you to take in. So we could call this history, right? It's his story. It's not the story. It's his story. And then there's her story. And then there's their story. And then there's that story. But the ultimate truth is somewhere in between that. And there's even very interesting leaks of information that have come through that are showing that where they have staged certain types of events to say that certain parties are doing this thing to that party. So like staging war events in a sense. So the truth is we don't fully know what's going on. So how could I possibly share my opinion on something that I am not there? I cannot give my opinion based on the world news because there's an agenda, there's propaganda. Thirdly, I'm going through this list of why it's not in the best interest of the public for any of us to really comment from the perspective of this is right and this is wrong. What we can share is how it's affecting us. So my beloved is former special forces, and he has shared with me certain things that he has seen and learned about through his job and through his former job. And he said there's something called the Book of Secrets where there's a world agenda that powers that be even beyond the presidents and even beyond who are the elected officials, where a very long time ago, they decided what events would happen, including wars, including certain big catastrophic events that could and would affect all of humanity. And they have happened throughout time. So to say that one group caused another when it's been in the plan, it's been in the works, is kind of ignorant in my opinion, right? So I'm not going to pretend like I know anything because I don't. And just like when certain wars have started, sometimes it's been the same side pretending to be the other side, pretending, oh, they did this to me, now this gives me a reason to go to war. So we really have to be careful of pointing fingers because we don't always know the whole truth. Because some special forces units have been hired to go and create certain catastrophes so that it could seem like a war, or it could seem like they were being attacked, but that's not actually what was happening. So beware of the deception. Beware, because unfortunately, in the old paradigm, the paradigm of war, there is an agenda to create separation, to keep people out of their power. So things like religion keep people separate and apart. And there's been this joke, which I've said it too, and now I've seen people saying it, of like, wouldn't it be nice if there was an alien invasion? Because if the alien invasion happened, what we would see so beautifully would be humans coming together. Because now there's something outside of us. But the thing is that I believe that there's people on earth who are for the force of light and good, and people on earth who want to create destruction and want to create war. The same is true for aliens. There are the aliens that are helping humankind, and there are the aliens that are part of the destruction of the universe. It's like Star Wars. This is the reality of on earth and in the universe and the cosmos. So if any form of alien came down, the good ones or the ones that are quote unquote bad, it would unite the Earth humanity race, because then it's like us and them. There's something in that psychology, that psyche of humans, where there's an us and them. And spiritual awakening is about the unification. It's about union, right? And we learn that through the couple. There's divine union. And even the Tao talks about, like, when there's peace in the home, then there's peace in the neighborhood, and then there's peace in the nation, and then there's peace on earth. So peace ultimately begins with us first. Then it's within those one-to-one relationships, and then it's in the family unit, and then it's in the group unit, and then it's in the community, and then the town, and then the nation, and then the whole earth. So the more people are in love and peace within themselves, they do not feel a need to create war. This is where my work is. I am here to support people to be the love, the peace, the harmony that you are by your very true nature. It is society, it is religions that have come to program into you belief systems that create you to be separate and different from the others. What if we were all united with a quote unquote religion of spirituality, which meant for the highest and best good of all, the fact that we are all interconnected and that our actions affect other people? What if we operated from that place? This is what interests me. This is what I feel called to comment on. So I shared this in a shorter version in a few stories on my Instagram. I shared how it's not my place. Just like I don't really think it's anyone's place who's commenting, unless you live there and you have experienced something firsthand. To comment on the events, I feel it's not your place. If you are of the people and of the religion where it is happening, and you have had some personal experience, that personal experience is absolutely yours to share. Just like I didn't comment until someone sent something to me, and then I was able to respond to what was sent. So it's not that I'm not paying attention. I'm seeing what's going on, but I'm doing just that. I'm observing. And I'm observing from a place of not giving energy to, of choosing to continue to focus my energy on my mission and purpose, which is the creation of the new paradigm. And even in the future paradigms, there isn't this separation from a space of religious backgrounds. Because ultimately there is one creator, and different religions have entitled it to be different things. But even in spirituality, we call it the universe. We call it the quantum. It's all the same. We're all one. We are earth creatures here on this planet. And this planet is so beautiful. So beautiful. Have you ever gone to a garden and you've seen like the flowers? And have you gone to the produce section of the grocery store and you've seen all the colors of the fruits? There's so much abundance on this planet. And you go to nature and you go to a cliff and you see the sunset and you're like, whoa. And you go to the mountains and you look at the valleys and you look at the peaks of the mountain and all the trees. You even go to LA and you see the diversity of all the trees in LA. Even if though it's a city, there's beautiful nature there. And even when you look at the skyline of cities, right? Like this is a human creation. It's still beautiful. Like this earth is so beautiful. Let us focus on this. Why destruction? Why? Yes, death is a part of rebirth. And so how I see this, if we humans on earth decide to go into a World War III, I see it as an opportunity for the destruction before the rebirth. So I don't even see it as a negative thing. If it were to happen, and if it happens, I see it as the death before the rebirth. I see that chaos as the space from which a new earth can be birthed. So even if it happens, I choose to see how it serves humanity. And this is part of that spirituality laws 101 of the perception and the meaning with which we give things is the reality with which we live it. So we can choose for it to be heaven or hell. We can choose to make it mean something negative, or we can choose to make it mean something positive. So my invitation to you is let it mean something positive, whatever happens. And may each one of us be a force for peace, for love, for harmony. So now I want to share with you what ended up happening. So here, my phone is here with me. Okay. So what ended up happening was, so she sent me that, and then I replied to her saying, and actually I will just read it. Let me just read it because I feel like this is the best way to really share the sentiment of what was exchanged. And I wrote, I'm focused on creating the new paradigm. As more people awaken, we shift the collective. Focusing on war is not the answer. We just create more of it. No amount of talking about it will change the actions of those already in power. It's best we focus on creating the reality we wish to see where we currently are. It's a frequency. People are living heaven on earth at the moment. It's a choice. I'm here for the re-education of humanity, not criticizing what I don't believe in. This creates the new paradigm, building the new, not fighting the old. So first of all, for those of you who are into angelic numbers, I didn't even realize, but when I hit sent, it was 5:55 p.m. here in Europe. So 555. So I was like, whoa, very powerful. And her response was, LOL, whatever makes you go to sleep at night, Nikki. And so this was very, in my opinion, like condescending, hurtful. Like I was just like, okay, just let her have her journey. So then I shared a bunch of my stories about what I've been sharing with you thus far. And I shared that with her. And I was like, it may not be what you want to hear me say, but it's my truth. And I've commented on the events. Keep doing your thing as I'll do mine. And so this was, and you can go and see those stories if you'd like. Then the next day, I woke up and I saw that she had written some apology messages. And I'm going to read what she wrote. The reason why I feel it's important to share this dialogue is because her and I represent the microcosm of humanity. We have a different set of views and opinions. Our line of work is completely different. She's more of an activist, whereas I'm more of a, I guess you can say like a spiritualist, where I believe that love and peace and harmony from within will be that powerful force that brings that peace. Like I don't fight for peace. I am the peace. And from that place, peace is created. Whereas activists are kind of like fighting for the peace. Like they also have the energy of a fight in them, which it's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's a different frequency. So here we are, two people, two different ways of being, two different belief systems. She has an expectation of how she wants me to show up. I'm more from a place of like, this is my truth. I'm going to share it. You have yours, but may we not fight about it. May we just accept our differences. That's the energy from which I come in. You're different from me. I accept your differences. So she writes, I actually have to apologize, Nikki. I just looked at this and realized I'm definitely exhibiting some of the concerning signs listed here, particularly in how I interacted with you. So she found a post about bullying and I'm going to share with you some of the key features, because I invite you to show up to the world when there's so many differences of opinions right now, especially with the direction things are going for the masses, that sometimes it can stir you up. And I invite you to want to really listen to people from a place of compassion and from a place of acceptance for everyone's unique aspects and the diversity of who they are. So I'll share what there's like 8 characteristics. So there's definitely a much longer and more complex conversation to be had. And I think my insensitive and impetus reaction does come from a real sense of discomfort around what I see as some cognitive dissonance on this platform. But approaching it in such a snide and insensitive way isn't fair to you or to the topic at hand. So forgive me. This showed me that pretty clearly. So this is one of the things that she sent me. So that was her message to me. And now this is what supported her in having a moment of self-realization. Let's pause for a moment, take a step back, and really see each other. We all come from different walks of life, carrying our stories, our pain, and our hopes into the advocacy spaces we inhabit. There's genuine power in honoring our shared humanity, recognizing that behind every belief is a person, a history, an essence that longs to be seen and understood. Our advocacy doesn't have to build walls. It can build bridges, connecting us in our diversities, fostering spaces where our stories interweave and our hearts find common ground. So let's extend genuine invitations for dialogues where our words are authentic, where our listening is real, and where our connections genuinely transcend our differences. This isn't merely advocacy. This is humanity, inviting us all into a space of true belonging and shared endeavor. So that was written by a man named Brandon Collinsworth. And that came from a greater post that he shared that said, 8 red flags. Are you unintentionally being a cause bully? So essentially, by provoking people to want them to show up in some way different from how they're showing up, you might portray these characteristics. And so I'll share them briefly. It's 1, dismissal of different views. Do you dismiss people when their view is different from yours? Or do you genuinely listen? And so it does talk about the solution is to encourage discussions and be open to that respect and explore various perspectives. Acknowledging differing viewpoints can exist harmoniously and contribute to rich dialogue. So essentially, if we all had the same perspective, like how boring would life be? Even when I went on that Fox reality show, Utopia, they chose 15 people from different backgrounds who had a different idea of utopia, right? So we don't have to all have the same opinion. And even with my beloved and I, we're friends over time. When there's a point where I could tell that we don't agree, instead of us trying to debate of who's right, I always say, okay, let's just agree to disagree. Like, you have this opinion, I have this opinion, but we still love each other. And that's always what I do, because I could feel that point of tension where people can start to get frustrated or annoyed, and then by coming to that agreement, to agree to disagree, it's beautiful. And then there's nothing to fight about because no one's right or wrong. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. The next sign is aggressive tactics. So if you're very assertive or demeaning with your viewpoint. So the solution is to utilize educational methods in expressing beliefs, ensuring that the conversation remains constructive and minimizing any form of intimidating or confrontation. So the next tactic that is a form of bullying is when you shame or belittle people for their beliefs. So is any way that you cause people to feel inferior because of what they believe. And the solution is to have empathetic engagement and to really just understand the root of people's belief from a supportive and judgment-free space. It's like saying like, oh, wow, you like vanilla ice cream. I love chocolate ice cream. Instead of being like, ew, vanilla is so gross, just be like, oh, wow, like, yeah, the flavor profile of vanilla is a little lighter, whereas I really like the intensity of chocolate. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Like, vanilla's still good, chocolate's still good, but you don't have to put down the other one. They can coexist at the same time. A lack of empathy. So a sign of this is absence of understanding or consideration regarding why others may harbor different beliefs. So I like to say this is like putting yourself in someone else's shoes, right? And the solution is a conscious effort to comprehend the experiences or emotions of others while extending compassion and understanding, even amidst agreement. So yeah, like I feel like anytime you find yourself like feeling that lack of empathy, can you for a moment just put yourself in their shoes, put yourself in their upbringing, where they grew up. Maybe there's a reason they believe in what they believe in. Interestingly enough, like most people are given a religion. They don't consciously choose it at a certain age. They take on what their family, their culture, the city they grew up in, the town they grew up in, that programming was just put there. You know, with time, as people awaken spiritually or grow into their being, they then can consciously choose, but not everyone does. Some people just stay with the programming of when they were born, and that's okay. So just really like this episode, I feel is so special because it's really to help create a more peaceful, harmonious earth. So then another sign of bullying is when you resort to personal attack. So you start to attack the person's character. Like you might say they're stupid, or you might, say they're ignorant, or they don't know what they're talking about, or something that's very personal. And of course, this is unacceptable behavior. And the solution is to make sure you stay focused on the subject matter and prevent any form of going into personal attributes of the person. A person is not their beliefs. A person is not if they're like just sharing information they heard, it really has nothing to do with who they are. They're just sharing information. The next sign is coercive pressure. So employing emotional or social manipulation in a bid to push one's agenda or cause. And the solution to this is endeavor to advocate through an authentic sharing of information and emotions, offering others the freedom and space to form their own opinions without feeling unduly pressured or manipulated. So, manipulation can come in many ways. Like if you want to make someone out to be the enemy, instead of just like sharing the facts, you start to even like bring in other information that really has nothing to do with the subject matter. And this is a form of manipulation. So for example, even if like this goes back to the previous one, but if you bring up like someone's personal life and try to make it mean something about how they're doing their professional job, like that's not related. And this creates manipulation. And we see this even with politicians all the time, where they try to find some kind of dirt on the politician to try to say, well, they're not going to be a good leader because they did this. And maybe that could be true, but ultimately that's a form of manipulation versus if we really looked at what their plan was, that's and how they lead in their workspace. Like that's really the factors that are going to determine if they would be. And even though everything's connected, of course, in the personal decisions we make, they say how you do anything is how you do everything. But we just want to be mindful if other information is coming in to manipulate. Intolerance to dissent, perceiving and treating those who disagree or offer alternative perspective as adversaries. So the solution is to construct an environment where divergent views are not seen as threats, but rather as opportunities for dialogue, understanding, and mutual growth. So where I really learned to love diversity was when I lived in community. I know even in utopia too. When I lived in community, we got to see the community as being richer when people were different. So if everyone was the same, like how boring. But if we all had different superpowers, like how special, how much more richness and goodness is a part of our community because of all the differences. So my opinion is when you see someone different than you, and even when I would host women's circles or to have a teacher training, or I'd host a course or an event or even a retreat, and I would look around at the people and people would be different races, different genders, look different. The more it was diverse, the more I loved it. I was like, yes, we're representing a microcosm of humanity, and Earth is a diverse planet, all the different trees, the animals, the plant life. Everything about Earth is so diverse. That's the beauty. We never want to cut off diversity. So when we hear of things like genocide, it's like, oh no, like we want the different races. We want the different bloodlines. And studies have even shown like when two people come together to mate and they have a difference in genes, this produces a more viable offspring. So having diversity in your genes makes you a stronger, healthier, more powerful physically as a human. So yeah, that's really beautiful. So when you see diversity, love on it. So then another sign of bullying is unwillingness to learn. So you're consistently dominating conversations and ignoring or minimizing the input of others. So the solution to this is active listening, value the contributions of others, ensuring that the conversations are mutually beneficial and respectful, therefore fostering an inclusive advocacy space. So those are 8, and this, like I shared, this was shared on social media by Brandon Collinsworth. And I applaud and thank my friend for sharing that with me, because then I posted it to my social media. And then in response to her apology, I wrote, "It's beautiful to witness your self-awareness and humility in sharing this realization. I totally forgive you, only love. I understand people are affected by the times, and we all have different perspectives and missions." And her reply was, "Absolutely. Thank you for understanding. I think it's really heavy and rough for all of us. It's affecting everyone in different ways. Sending love always." So it was beautiful. Like, I'm so grateful for her reaching out, sharing her concerns. I'm grateful I had an opportunity through this podcast or my social media to share the truth of where I stand on these situations. And ultimately, it's that I am here to support those of you who wish to create your heaven on earth, that are here to co-create the new paradigm where there's love, peace, abundance, joy for all. And how, like the easiest how, like if you want to know, well, how can I show up in a better way? What can I do right now to make the world a better place? Show up as love and compassion. So what I will do is if you wish to go deeper, I recommend my Love Ascension Code, because what this does is it helps you to come into the frequency of love. Love is the most powerful frequency. I held that woman in a space of love, even though she was somewhat attacking me in a passive aggressive way. It wasn't so extreme, but she was like, she displayed some of those behaviors that were in that post in regards to being a bully. And what it helped me to do is show up as a better leader, to demonstrate and practice what I preach, which is I am love, and I will hold this with love, and I will share my point of view with love, and I will receive her with love any way she shows up. And that force of love transmuted the energy, and she showed up in a different way. She came to the realization of how I didn't have to say anything of how she was being. She saw it for herself in the mirror of love, because the mirror of love is the mirror of truth. So how we show up is with love. How we create peace is with peace, not with fighting to get peace. No, just peace. Be love. And so with that, thank you so much for tuning in today. In the bonus content, I will guide you through a love and kindness, peace for the earth meditation. So we'll do a grand energy healing, a grand peace creation experience for the planet. So we'll be doing our role in more of the light worker way, because as light workers, we work through the energetics of the planet. And so I hope you join me for that. I send you so much love. Thank you for being here, and may there be peace on earth. I have full faith and trust in humanity, because my interaction with that woman is just a microcosm of humanity. So if we found our way to love and peace through our differences, through speaking our truth, I know that we can do it as a humanity. For all the different races, for all the different religions, for all the different countries, we can find our way to world peace. I know this in my bones. I know the success of my mission to bring the New Earth paradigm is a success already. So it is done. And so with that, I send you so much love. Mwah. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time, and I'll see you in the bonus content. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content, and remember, every Monday the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the ascension path with me and for doing this great work. Sending love until next time.